This is Daniel Simon at Baton Rouge Community College. This week I'll have a preview video for the summer semester 2025. This week I'll kind of mostly go over everything for the whole semester. So I'll kind of discuss Canvas modules, what's in it, and you should have already looked at some videos I already have online, like preview videos for the class. Some probably have already seen the syllabus review as well. So I'll kind of go in and talk about that first, of course, with that. So if you go to Canvas modules right now, you can see I do have at the top, there should be a section in there about Welcome History 1113. So do check out, I do have announcements I've got listed right here. You can see, and that kind of goes into the course itself for the summer semester. And you do have the syllabus right here as well to look at. So, in the first couple weeks of the semester, you should, first look at the syllabus for sure for the class. And if you do have a question about the course, I do have a section in discussions where you can, go ahead and ask me any kind of question about the course itself. You can email me also as well, as you see below. There's my email address pretty much throughout the whole semester. So do check out, I do have a History 1113 preview announcement, which is right there. I have a preview video for the course I was kind of talking about at the beginning. That kind of gives you a basic tour of History 1113 and what it looks like for the whole semester. That's, of course, the previous recorded video you're looking at right there. If you keep going down in Canvas modules, you'll notice there's a Canvas announcement about the History 1113 course. That goes into a syllabus review, what the syllabus entails for the whole semester, like all the different, grades you're going to make to pass the class and all that. So do watch the syllabus review video about my course in general and the syllabus. And that's up to, for you to go back through the whole syllabus, that video through the whole semester at BRCC. Below that, you should also see information about the student contract policy page and also the pre-test. There should be two separate announcements about that. Make sure to get those two assignments done at the beginning of the semester. Student contract policy page, which is worth bonus points, you can see there. That's due by Friday, June 6th, I think at the latest. Looks like I've got it. And then also the pre-test itself, you can see it's also due on June 6th. So you notice the time, by the way, I think it's going to be due at noon unless it gets extended for some reason as well. Now, if you go over, you'll also come down here. You'll notice that I do have information about important Canvas announcement links for my YouTube channel. As you know, most of pretty much my videos are put on my YouTube channel. Do check out my YouTube channel. There's the link to it right there. But I do have various channel, playlists we'll use for the semester. I know the main one is right here for the History 1113 lectures for the semester. Pretty much most of them are in there. I don't know if all of them are, but they're right there. Also, there's you've already seen in my syllabus and also in Canvas, I do have some bonus projects like the BRCC Veterans Oral History Project, if you're interested in that, and the Student Historical Documentary Project. I do have the links to those videos if you're interested in that project. I don't know if that many students are going to do that project, but there's the actual links to it. And I think the assignments are located, of course, they're in assignments, but they're located down below in Canvas modules, which I'll show you later. If you keep going down, of course, in modules, this preview video I'm working on right now is going to be put right here. You see right below the week lecture schedules that I've got below. Pretty much all the assignments are going to be listed in Canvas modules, but I'll probably every week when I send out announcements like via email, I'll send you a link to each week, which we'll do. That's one thing I like about YouTube. You can send a specific link out like in a certain video, and I'll send that to you for like week 1, week 2, week 3, etc. But this whole video I'll put right here, of course, for the whole semester. So yeah, let's go through the different weeks in modules, like the different lecture schedules. Of course, majority of my assessments are through lectures, videos, various video assignments or whatever that I've got. And I know for week 1 and pretty much week 1 and week 2, that's going to be like most of like quizzes that we'll have at the beginning of the semester before we even get to an actual. Well, I think we do have like a first assessment I've got, of course, on Egypt. But you go right here for week 1, I do have the prehistory lecture, which that's going to be the first lecture I'll have for the semester. And make sure to watch that lecture. Of course, there's the PowerPoint that goes with it and the lecture. And it's only one for that one particular assessment right there. I do have 2 different lectures. I've got the original lecture that I've got here. And I do have another version of it as well, which just has the PowerPoints with it also. If you have a comment, question, of course, about that lecture, don't forget in discussions, do ask me, questions about the lecture. You do get bonus points for it. I think for the semester, how I'm doing the bonus points for discussion, you would just put the comment question in Canvas discussions, like under that specific topic. But also, I'm also doing a deal where if you ask like double, like if you put it in the video in YouTube, I'll give you double the points. So +4 for Canvas discussions, and then +4 for putting the same comment question in YouTube also as well. So let's see. And of course, there's the announcement about that first prehistory quiz. Of course, I'll have. You can even see the due date for it, of course, which will be Friday, June 13th. So they should have due dates. I do have a deal where after the assignment expires, like the due date, they're left open, but to take off points per day for being late. So that's pretty much usually how I do all my assessments that way. Then continuing, still in week 1, of course, you have ancient Mesopotamia. There'll be the next section. You can see that both prehistory Mesopotamia can be started on Monday, June 2nd. So that lecture on Mesopotamia is really in 2 parts. Part 1 is a lecture that kind of goes in the background of Mesopotamia, talks about mostly the Sumerian civilization, which was really probably the greatest civilization that was really in Mesopotamia overall. It does go into the Akkadians as well, Akkadian Empire. Part 2 goes into various states like the Assyrian Empire, Babylonian Empire that they had as well. Kind of goes up to the time of King Nebuchadnezzar. Of course, you've heard of in the Bible. There's a combined version of that lecture too, which I think is just only the PowerPoint lectures that you're looking at right there. And then there's the discussion section for that as well, if you have a comment, question about that also. The announcement, of course, for Canvas quiz number 2, that's going to be on Mesopotamia. That'll be also due the same date as the prehistory one, which is, you can see, Friday, June 13th. So that's kind of the first week right now that I've got scheduled in the semester for the summer course overall. Then moving on to week 2, which you can see, you can start June 9th there, Monday. I'll be moving on to talk about the Phoenicians and the Israelites, like the rise of Phoenicia, where Lebanon is today. I'll talk about the Carthaginian Empire, which was a brief empire that rivaled the Romans. And then I'll also talk about the rise of the Israelites, like early history into the Jews in the Bible. So we go into that also as well. So there should be separate lectures for those. Like on the Phoenicians, there's one right here, and then there's another one, of course, for the Israelites. But I do have a combined version I've got where I've kind of put them all together in one PowerPoint. You can see right there with the slides. So Phoenicians, Israelites, they have a separate, you can see, discussion section right there as well. And then that one will be assessed in another Canvas quiz, number 3, which I've got a due date for that one, Friday, June 20th. So it's being a little further back in the semester. So that's pretty much that week 2 right there. Week 2 does keep going, believe it or not. I do go next into ancient Egypt, which this kind of goes from the background of Egypt. It goes through like the main periods of Egypt, like Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, and up to like the New Kingdom period, which is really the peak period of ancient Egypt that you've got. So there are actually several lectures on this. I think it's like 3 parts that it does have originally. I know there's like the part 1 lecture, which goes into like the background of Egypt, talks about King Menes who unified Egypt. And then you can see the PowerPoints with them too in there. And then the Old Kingdom goes into like the pyramid building, the age of pyramids, where up to like around the 4th dynasty, where they built some of the greatest pyramids in the world, like the Great Pyramid was constructed of King Khufu. And then there's a combined version of that too, and you can see the discussion sections for that. So I know for the first, like the part 1 and 2 lectures, there should be a separate discussion for that one. Then I do go into the Middle and New Kingdoms as well, which Middle Kingdom's not as well known. Probably never heard much about that one, but I know the New Kingdom's like real famous because of the 18th dynasty. And the 19th too, as well. You've got like Ramses the Great, but I think people have heard of that King Tut. I think it's the most famous thing you might have heard of from that particular period overall. So one thing about this section, this is going to be, of course, like the Egypt lectures will be assessed on an actual exam. So you'll have a first exam coming up quiz that I'll have. And if you go down further in modules, you'll see there should be like an announcement about this too as well on Monday, June 9th, where I do have a review. I actually have a review on the exam topics for the exam quiz, and there should be PowerPoints on that. You don't have to turn in the review stuff for that, but I'll show you study guides you can follow and turn in later in the semester. But there should be a review, recorded review, that kind of goes into that historical period to help you out. If you got a question about the review too, you can add that as well to discussions. That's the main announcement I've got. You can see on the first exam quiz right there, and it's due, you'll see, close to like the late part of June is when it'll be. So that's pretty much the first 2 weeks you got right there. Then moving down to week 3, of course, you've got, we go on to India next. So ancient India, parts 1 and 2 start on Monday, June 16th. And this particular period goes from like the background of ancient India, goes up through a lot of historical information about India, but it goes into also religion a lot. So I do go into like, especially Hinduism, I think, and Buddhism are the 2 big things to talk about. And then I do talk about empires in India, at least up to like the Gupta Empire that you're looking at right there. So that's the main announcement about those that I've got. But I've got a 2-part lecture series that I've got on ancient India that has also been combined as well. You'll see it. So there's that number, Canvas quiz number 4 we'll have later in the semester. Friday, June 27th is when that'll be due. And that will not, by the way, be on a exam. So that's going to be on a separate quiz that you're looking at right there. Also, keep going into week 3. We also have ancient China as well. You can start in that same week you're looking at, Monday, June 16th, I guess. But this, of course, this particular lecture series is not going to be on actual quiz. It'll be later on an exam. I'll be talking about that later in the semester. But this is a part 1 and 2 lecture. The part 1 lecture, that one goes into like the early background of China, talking about its like geography and some of the early dynasties that were ruled by kings before it became like an empire. Do go into like the philosophies of China, like Confucianism, which you've probably heard of. And then after that, I do go into like the empire, like part 2, there'll be like get into the empires of China, like up with the Qin dynasty, the Han period. And I usually go up like the Tang period pretty much during that time period. But like I said, this will be assessed in like the second exam quiz a little later. Also, there'll be like a bonus assessment that I'll give you in that week 3 bonus video quiz on the Great Wall of China documentary, which you need to watch. And there's an announcement about it. You can see there. And like I'm not really assessing China in week 3, but I do have this bonus video quiz I'll give you. That should probably say number 1. I don't think there's a one before that I've got that I'm really giving out this semester, but they'll probably say bonus video quiz 1 later. But basically, you need to watch both those documentaries. It should be a part 1 and a part 2, which goes into the development of the Great Wall of China up to early modern times. And that is a type of assessment that will be completed in short answer format. So it's not like multiple choice or anything like that, but it is worth bonus points. So if I give you, bonus type assessments, do take advantage of it, because that's going to really help your grade in the semester overall. So I've got that listed there for later. As you can see, it's due more into late June. All right, into week 4, getting close to halfway in the summer semester. And I do go next into ancient Greece. We talked about the background of Greece and kind of go up like through the rise of the Greek city-states, and talk about the classical period as well. And this is a 4-part lecture series. I know it's like one of my longest series I've got up there with the Roman one, but this series will be assessed on another exam. That's why it's, kind of a lot more material here that you're looking at. So I do have an announcement about that. I have combined them all together in one announcement for you. But in the first part lecture, I'll have part 1 you see there. I'll go into the background of early Greece, the Greek Bronze Age. It's called all kinds of names, Aegean civilization as well. And you have like the rise of the Minoans, like where Crete is, Mycenaeans and the Greek mainland. It's the period of the Trojan War. You've probably heard of that, I'm sure. And then, of course, part 2, you get into the rise of the Greek city-states. I'm sure you've heard of Athens and Sparta. Those 2 states rivaled each other during that time period. Athens was more known for its culture. Sparta was more known for its military. So I kind of talk about the difference between those 2 and the different city-states and the conflicts between them and so on. There's a combined version of that lecture if you want to look at it as well. And I do go into like the period of the Greco-Persian Wars, like part 3, where Greece has to fight off the Persian Empire, usually called also during that time period the Achaemenid Empire. I'm sure you've heard of Darius the Great, or especially Xerxes the Great. They lived during that same time. And then, of course, you got the classical period as well. Kind of go into that period where I talk about art and culture, the Olympics, mythology. Of course, we'll talk about some of the different gods of ancient Greece, like Zeus. So that's all kind of combined into one series right there. And of course, you see the discussion section. If you got a comment, question, do send those to me in Canvas and on YouTube also. Let's see. We do have, of course, there you see the schedule. It's going to be on the second exam. So that's going to be a major assessment. Might be one of the harder assessments in the semester you're looking at, but do take care of that and get it done, And I do have a review for the semester, Monday, June 23rd. Original Canvas announcement you see there about that. I'll kind of be reviewing over the second exam. It's recorded, of course, video, but I do go into like all of pretty much the topics that'll be on the exam, and mostly majority of the material does come off the study guides. So if you're not using the study guides, for the assessments, the lectures, you might be lost. So make sure you do use the study guides throughout the semester. And I think of this semester, I'm kind of some, not all assessments, but some assessments, I might even throw some of the study guide questions actually on the quizzes, like maybe a matching or whatever, match them up right. But there's the PowerPoints, of course, for the review right there. And that's the announcement, of course, about the second exam. You can see it's going to be due more into early July. So I've got dates pretty much throughout you'll be looking at. All right, then getting past more halfway, in the semester, we get into the rise of Macedonia, Alexander the Great. You may have heard of him, hopefully. So I have only just one lecture on him. It's kind of a short period, the Hellenistic age. It's not around very long, but kind of go into that. And there'll be a quiz with early Roman history that will be put with week 5 that I've got. So make sure you look at that lecture right here. There is like a combined version with the second exam review that I did years ago, it's been a year or so ago when I did it, I guess. But if you got a comment about Alexander, do let me know about that also. Then moving down, we get into early Roman history, which I get into like I said, late June is the time period when we start on this. And I go into like the early background of Rome, like how it got started in Italy in ancient times. And I kind of go up through like the beginning of the monarchy period, like they call it the regal period usually, up through the Republic. When the Republic starts, I do talk a lot about the Punic Wars, which is kind of a interesting period in Roman history that really kind of leads into how Rome kind of starts to become an empire. I go up to like the death of Julius Caesar in the 1st century BC. So that's pretty much the majority of the material that'll be on that lecture or lectures that you're looking at overall. So that will be assessed, like the early Roman history is going to be assessed with Alexander the Great. So if you do have a question about that comment or whatever, do let me know later in the semester. So Friday, June 11th, July 11th, looking at right there as the date. Then we get into the later part of the semester, week 6, by Monday, July 7th, get into the Roman Empire. Of course, I talk about how, Augustus, we call it originally Octavian, comes to power after Julius Caesar dies. And we get the Roman Empire. Do go into like the early different dynasties that they have in Rome, especially get into like early Christianity. I know in the first lecture you're looking at right here. Then I go into like the development of like the Flavian dynasty up through like the Pax Romana, which peaks around the 2nd century. And then we kind of, that lecture goes all up like the Severan dynasty where Rome starts to kind of fall apart when Pax Romana declines and all that. Then I do kind of talk about the period from like the time of Emperor Diocletian, Constantine the Great, up to the end of the Western Roman Empire when it actually collapses about 476. So it's a lot of history in that period right there, which I've kind of combined in at least 3 major lectures that you're looking at. So that's another important period, kind of like the second exam I've got, because that's going to be assessed on the final exam. Quiz. So pretty much all the final exam is going to be just on the Roman Empire that I have. So if you got a comment, question about the Roman Empire, do let me know later in the semester. Then finally, we do get to here's the exam right here. You'll see later. It's actually going to be posted early. So like Monday, July 7th is when I'll be putting it up in week 6. Yeah. And I do have an announcement about the different Roman Empire topics that'll be on there with the final exam review that I'll have. Do you have the PowerPoints for those as well with the review, which is right here. And there, of course, you can see is the Canvas announcement about the final exam on the Roman Empire. You can see here it'll be due Friday, July 25th at the latest. No extensions, by the way, after that date. Don't come crying to me, because pretty much after that, that's the end of the semester. I'll have to, finalize grades. There is a deal where you can be exempt from the final. If you have a, A+ grade, usually 96 or higher, 96% or higher. I probably need to raise that, I'm thinking. But you do have to, make sure that you complete all your other assessments. So if you have an assessment missing, um, you have to complete the final. A lot of times you can just complete it anyway. If you have a high percentage in the course, it won't probably hurt you to take it anyway. So moving down, there is one more major assessment I do have at the end of the semester I've got, which is right here. You can see I do on the Middle Ages, I've got a lecture series that I have. I usually announce that at the end of the semester. Week 7, Monday, July 14th, you can see there. I'll have another assessment I'll have, which is actually for extra credit. So if you're behind the class or you want extra credit to, pad your grade, which I would definitely take advantage of that. They have, of course, a Canvas quiz that I'll have on the Middle Ages. This goes into like the major historical topics. I don't go into everything in the Middle Ages because we usually don't have time for that. But I go into a lot of the major events that do happen that are famous during that period. Like I know, beginning of the Middle Ages, they had the rise of the Byzantine Empire, which you may have heard of, is often called the Eastern Roman Empire, which was based at Constantinople, where Istanbul is now. You may have heard of Justinian the Great, who was a famous emperor of that period. The rise of Islam with Abraham, that happens during that period in the early Middle Ages. You also get the rise of the Franks. You've heard of the Franks, who were these Germanic peoples that came out of Germany. They settled to where France is today, and they helped develop Western Europe. They're pretty important because the Franks were considered the first major dynasty that's Catholic. They kind of rise to power. Then you've got the High Middle Ages, the Viking period. The Vikings come out of Scandinavia. They invade Europe. The Crusades might have been one of the most famous historical events that happened in the Middle Ages, where Catholics in Western Europe tried to go back and seize the Holy Land because it got taken from them by Islam, the rise of Islam. Late Middle Ages goes into multiple topics. The rise of the Mongols and their empire. You may have heard of Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan. Those are famous Mongols that take over parts of Asia and Europe. The Black Death, the bubonic plague, ravages Europe. 100 Years' War, where France and England fight it out for supremacy in Western Europe. That's kind of an important period. Now, I do go at lastly into the Renaissance, how art and culture kind of create this revitalization of things in Europe. So that's kind of where most of the course ends. So the course goes, pretty much from prehistory up to the late Middle Ages, where the Renaissance is. So, if you have a comment, question about that lecture or any lecture, you pretty much can ask me anything throughout the semester. Remember, you get double points if you put in Canvas and, of course, also on YouTube. So +4, +4. Then you can see there's the announcement about the final exam bonus quiz for the Middle Ages. It's due the same date as the final exam for the Roman Empire. So remember that, pretty much the same date that you're looking at. By the way, if you go to the bottom here, you can see right here, there's a section there talking about, there's some review questions I've got for that period if you want to use those to answer them. They're pretty much in the study guides I've got below, but I've got it put there too as well. All right, moving on now. That's pretty much it for all the different semesters of the week, like the lectures and the different assignments that I've got out. We also have other assignments, which I've kind of probably talked about in videos and announcements and emails, but I have them listed in Canvas modules also. So they have the book report, of course, which is a major assessment, for the semester. That's due. That's pretty much, you can go see that in Canvas assignments. It's listed there. So students are going to have to read at least one major book, historical work for the semester. I do have a book list, which is right here. The directions are listed here. They're in Canvas. They're in Canvas assignments. They're pretty much in a bunch of places. And over the summer, and I guess the first couple weeks of class, you should email me about what book you want to read for the semester. For the summer, the paper is limited. You don't have to write a major paper, but I did want a minimum 1 to 2 page double-spaced paper, of course, on just what you've read. I think it's only like 50 pages is all you have to read for the summer, at least. The assignments listed pretty much right here. I do have a writing rubric if you need it, of course, for that particular assignment. So it's worth 200 points. That's a major assessment, of course, for the semester. Vocabulary, of course, I do that during the semester. There's like 3 or 4 of these assignments that you have throughout the semester. They are staggered on the date. So for each assessment, you're going to have to go in and define certain historical terms, whether it's famous people, historical events that happened, battles, whatever it is. For each term, you have to randomly just pick them. So just, you don't have to do all the terms, but at least 30 terms. I think they're worth 5 points each. If you do turn the assignment in before the actual due date, you do get bonus points. I think it's like 10% for it. I know for the summer semester, you need to turn in at least 2 out of the 3 assignments. So out of the first, second, and the third key terms assignments, you have to turn in 2 of 3. So if you turn in all 3 of them, you'll just drop it and leave it blank, no grade. Whichever ones you want to do, I'll just make your mind with that. I do have due dates for them. June 18th for the first one. Second key terms, July 2nd, and the third one you can see is Wednesday, July 16th. So it's staggered, every so many weeks. I guess every 2 weeks you're looking at right there. There's also a bonus one that's due at the end of the semester, final key terms, which you can see it's worth bonus points. You want to turn that in. So that's optional to turn that one in the semester. So a lot of students do that one too as well overall. By the way, if you turn an assignment in and you don't list sources, you're not going to get any bonus. So that kind of thing. So make sure you see that as well. Going down, we do have study guides also as well. So do make sure you do use those throughout the semester. The first exam study guide, second exam study guide, final exam study guide. Those are for like exams and quizzes. So all assessments overall. I did say that a lot of the types of questions on there will be on a lot of quizzes and assessments. I think there's even a deal where some quizzes I'll put the actual questions in an assessment part. I think mostly the matching part I might do. It could be in other questions like multiple choice as well. But yeah, make sure you do use those to complete a lot of these assessments right here. And if you do have a question about the study guide, for some reason, you can ask questions in Canvas discussions. Now, I was talking about those bonus projects that I've got as well, which I've kind of talked about off and on here. We do have this BRCC Veterans project that we've got, oral history project. It's due at the end of the semester. If you're interested in that, do let me know. This is a extra credit volunteer assignment that you can do. Like if you know a veteran or you're a veteran yourself, you can do a short video or audio interview with a veteran. So do check out the announcements about the different bonus projects that I've got for the semester. There's the assignment right here. I do have the oral history guidelines for doing the veterans project right here. I do have examples of different projects that I have. I think I've actually made shorts out of them too. If you want to, maybe we should check those out too. Maybe show you those as well. I've kind of made, but that's basically, make sure you look over the guidelines. If you don't do the guidelines right, you're not going to get the project done right. I know you have to have a release form where the veteran has to sign it, turn it in to you and to me. The veteran interviews, by the way, have to be a minimum of at least 10 minutes or longer. That's just the amount. And it could be a veteran that most of them might be Cold War up to like Afghanistan, Iraq type wars. That's probably what you're going to get the most. You're not going to get too many World War II veterans. I think most of those are deceased. that you have. But that assignment, like I said, will be due at the end of the semester. You can either turn it in through Canvas or you can email them like Google Drive or whatever. Share them to me through an email. Some of those files can be very large. That might be kind of a problem turning them in at the end of the semester. There's another project. It's kind of a fairly new one. It's the Student Historical Documentary Project. If you want to do that one too, I kind of admitted that one a couple of years ago, but that one's another bonus project if you're interested. And it's due like the Veterans Project at the end of the semester also. So pretty much the week of finals right there. And that's where you do like a short documentary. I think some students have done use PowerPoint and other types of video format if you want to do it that way. Make video. And I guess it can be AI if you want to somehow craft a video using AI. That's possible. That's the new thing right now. But it's only got to be 3 to 5 minutes. So it's not, you don't have to make a hour-long lecture on something, that kind of thing. But like if it's short or incomplete, not done correctly, you could have points taken off for it. So that'll be also due, like I said, in the semester, and you either, put it in Canvas or under that assignment, or you could, of course, email it to me as well. I do have a deal where you can, for these bonus projects, like if you don't want to do the book report, you can do the volunteer bonus projects if you're interested in those for extra credit, which would replace it. So I don't know if you want to do that or not, but just let me know or whatever throughout the semester if you want to really do that. So I know in July is when the book reports are due. So you might have a 0 on it if you're going to be doing that. So you might want to try to do the project early. I do have an academic calendar listed as well in Canvas. You can see that in the middle of that Canvas page. That goes into all the important dates like holidays. I know it's got information about due dates for assignments, which is the main thing that's there overall. So I did make that for you also. Then I do have like semester office hours. I'm not on campus. A lot of professors aren't on campus. I'm a full-time professor, so I'm pretty much at home during the summer. So pretty much via email, Canvas discussions is what I prefer. I do have a phone number and email. You can see contact information below as well. I guess I could do video. I'm not really big into video with students. I prefer email is what I usually do. Or if you want to do Canvas discussions also as well, pretty much answer anything you want throughout the semester. So that is giving you kind of a tour right now of what Canvas discussions look like. I'll have other announcements out there, of course, emails, video for the semester for you to use. Course pretty much guide you throughout the whole semester overall. So my course is not that bad. I think I'm an easy professor. I'm not that hard really. But if you don't do your work, you're going to fail. So it's pretty much, I'll just let you know about that. But if you got a question about something, do let me know throughout the semester. Email me, about whatever. But Canvas discussions is pretty much something you need to use. You do get a lot of extra credit for that. So right now, I know y'all should be looking at the syllabus and pre-test contract policy page. That's pretty much the main thing you need to do at first before you get going with the semester. So that's it for today. I'll send out links about this video course. It's already in Canvas discussions and everywhere else, Canvas modules. So that's it for this video. So y'all take care. Have a great summer at BRCC. Like I said, if you got a question, do let me know about the course. So everybody take care. I'll see you later.